Now, this is something that took me ages to figure out when I first started playing the game. If you go back to research, and you go to the light tank, the T-26.
Yep.
And you see, like, the first one, the one that we have researched, and you see on the right-hand side of that little picture, we've got, like, the SU-37, the SU-7626, and the ZSU-12.7.
Yeah.
Those are... One is a rocket like tank. Another is an anti-tank tank, and the other one is an anti-air tank. You can kind of figure out which one's which.
Wait, that research?
Obviously,
I never knew that.
It took me ages to figure that out, by the way.
Yeah.
So, I believe the Su-37 is a tank destroyer, and Su-7626 is an artillery cannon that is mounted to a tank.
Yeah.
And then the ZSU is the anti-air tank.
Right.
So you can put that in, and this would basically keep your... Now, with regards to this, there's another thing. This would basically just keep, like, your tank unit strong and would not slow them down if you have that in it.
Okay.
Now, go back to the light, and I'll go back to, like, the edit mode of the tanks again. I just want to tell you another thing. Tanks do not... And hover over a light tank. And look for the organization that they give you. They give you a minus 2.7 to organization. Now, organization is very important because if the higher organization you have, the longer your troops can last can hold out in a battle. If you have very low organization, they will break very quickly. And this will allow them to push you back. That's how combat works. So tanks are very good for breaking through, but cannot defend very. But their defense, their defense might have like 108 in this particular unit, but their ability to withstand a full-on battle where they're being attacked is not very high. So therefore, that's why in a tank division, you'd always want some motorized or mechanized infantry in there to give it that little boost of organization. That's an important thing, for me at least. And then with regards to support, it doesn't matter. That does not increase combat width, and it does give you the negative stats that it says, so it does increase supply use and decrease organization, for example, but it will also give you the benefits, but it does not increase combat width, and it does not slow your unit down, which I think is a good thing.
No.
If it's regards to like a light tank unit that you would want to move fast. And if you go to a motorized division, now this is something for me later on when we start to get like medium tanks. We have two options. We can either go and design a full division from scratch, which could possibly save us a bit of time. But I think maybe for the motorized division, we can just update this a bit. Alright?
Okay.
So we can update this to fit a medium tank kind of style and keep our light tanks around, which are always good to have. Now, motorized divisions can be pretty good, but I generally don't use them. That's just my kind of style. And now, the next thing, research. So if you go click on like research and you go to the first thing, it's generally common knowledge what should be the first three. Now, Soviet Union has 3 research slots. What are the first 2 things you should like research?
Well, I always research electronic mechanical engineering and basic machine tools.
Basic machine tools. You can't research that yet. What would you use the other slot for?
Days.
I was looking at mechanical computer, basic machine tools. Okay, and then there's another one. What would you research currently with your extra slot? Now, there's 2 options you can do here. You can either go. I don't generally, depending on like the size of my country, but it's always good to do that. I would go for construction. You can do that. Support equipment.
Shall I do it?
As the Soviet Union is not very support equipment as Soviet Union is not very necessary. By the way, it's good to get like maybe the artillery support equipment, the anti-tank support equipment, and the entrenched engineering company support equipment because that gives you that. But generally, like a smaller country would have to go for field hospitals and logistics as well. That's fine, but as Soviet Union, you've got so much manpower, you don't necessarily have to do that. So in the case of the Soviet Union, you have a couple of options. Either you can research the next tank unit and start rushing towards that medium tank, or if you are wanting to build up your industry a bit more, which is generally something I do, and a newsflash is what I'm doing currently in our current game, I go for construction 1. Right? Okay. So that just allows construction speed and factory repair speed to be a bit faster. Now, before we assign factories, and we're gonna build some factories first. We're gonna assign some things to be queued up. So, generally, now this is a style preference. Some people like to build civilian factories first. I personally like to build civilian factories first. Others like to build military factories first. Now, this for me depends on the country. For a country like the Soviet Union, where you don't have a lot of both for the size of your country, I would prefer to go civilian factories. I generally almost always do. But a country like the United Kingdom, right? You have a significant more amount of civilian factories than you do military factories. You can go look at this on like their details tab. It'll tell you an estimate. They have 14 military factories and somewhere between 28 and 38 civilian factories, and somewhere between 18 and 20 naval dockyards. Now, also depend now. So for me personally, if I were the Soviet Union, I would first build a few civilian factories, and then build military, and then build a few naval dockyards directly after that, but not too many, because as the Soviet Union, you generally are going to be mainly a land-based power, not really a naval-based. You can become a naval-based power quite easily, just build the overpowered ships, and I'll show you that a bit later, because we are going to build a few ships. But I would say the first things first, let's build a few civilian factories. Now there's another interesting tip to this. The amount of infrastructure you have in a state depends on how fast that civilian and or military factory will be built there. For example, you click on like infrastructure, and you find a 7 out of 10 like state near, it's like near Romania. So click on that. Like if you look at it, right?
Yeah.
I think it's Kiev. It has 7 out of 10 infrastructure. If we go just next to that to like Odessa down there by the coast, they only have 5 out of 10. Now this, and then you go click on the civilian factory, and then you see that plus 70% by Kiev, right?
Yeah.
That means that you will build 70% quicker in that particular province than it will build 70% quicker in Kiev, where in Odessa it will build 50% quicker, right?
I can't find Kiev.
It just gives you a bonus to how.
Where is Kiev?
Right near Poland. Near like Romania and Poland.
Is that it?
Right near the border.
Oh, there we go.
This
I was looking at Kharkov.
Okay, that's fine. So you can see like it gives you a plus 70% bonus to that, where Odessa gives you a plus 50% bonus. I mean, you'll build 70% faster in Kiev, and you'll only build 50% faster comparatively to a place that has no infrastructure, like what's the word? Siberia up there, which has like 1 out of 10 infrastructure, you'll only build it plus 10% faster. Right? You get it?
Yeah.
So I would say, so generally we'd want to look at areas like this.
Okay.
Now, when you watch, I saw you did with Poland, is you built a lot of factories. don't shift click. Just maybe click one in a couple of, in a few places. You can click maybe a couple of times in a certain place. But I'm just building a few here around, in a couple of areas. But considering we're such a big country and we have so many states, the whole infrastructure thing doesn't really matter to us that much. But a country like Belgium, for example, matters a lot. Because it can mean the difference between having a lot of. And now I've got way too many civilian factories here. So for now, we can build more later. There's always later. Let's get rid of that. So let's just try and keep it at this. And generally, what I like to do is try and aim for 2 fully maxed out lines of production of factories. If you have a little bit more than that, it's fine.